Welcome to my session. I am Professor Emeritus Stephen Adei. As usual, always you can listen to me every Saturday at 8:30 on ZFM 101.9. And if you miss it, you can join me through YouTube. We have been dealing for several weeks now, leadership for everyone, everywhere. Leadership for everyone, everywhere. Our sub-team now is organizational leadership. Organizational leadership. We have given the broad introduction. Now I would like to start to go into a bit more of the details of how to lead companies, institutions, departments. That's what I mean by organizational leadership. Much of the literature on leadership is actually on such leadership, how to lead organization. And therefore, there's a lot of literature out there, and I wouldn't be boring you with the academic aspects, but more of the ordinary aspects which everyone, whether you are a managing director, a general manager, or team leader, you may want to look at. When it comes to organizational leadership, it is very important for us to make a distinction between management and leadership. When you go to an office and you ask for who is the leader here, most likely they would say the CEO. In other words, they have identified leadership with position, or the one who wields authority and is in a management position. Invariably, the good leaders will also be in that. But it is important for us to distinguish between leadership as a function and a process from leadership as a position in the organization. And that leads to the distinction between leadership and management. One of the works which were done early by one of the leadership gurus, Burns, has to do with the distinction between management and leadership. Let me just share, trying to use as much of his own words as possible, as follows. He says, the manager often administers, sees to what has been set up, the status quo, to make sure that they run well, they focus on efficiency of the system as given. They may learn from others, copy others, improve on it. If he is an accounting manager, he may move from the ordinary accounting to the international standards. So there are some innovations. People think that when you make the distinction between management and leadership, the managers are not doing anything. In fact, they are the supervisors of the business plan, the annual budgets, incremental increases from 5% increase, 10% increase. They maintain what is being there, and that's incremental changes. But the underlying factor of management is that they focused on current systems and structures, hierarchy, position. You are a senior, you are this, you are in this department, which is very important for a bureaucratic, that's a bigger organization, to function. You cannot say, as the French would say, tout à ça, you just throw everything into them. So, and they rely on controls, time management, performance, appraisal systems, and generally they work within the short range, according to Burns. By short range, you are not talking about 1 week. No, They are managing, when they do a strategic plan, it can be 5 years, 3 years, 2 years. However, the average manager does not think about 25 years. Oh, he says, I'll be dead. In our organization, Ghana Christian International High School, is 25 years this year. And we are looking at the next 25 years and what will be done. But that is not the work of the manager. I'm not going to ask my principal, think about 25 years when he is thinking about whether the students should pass their WASI or Cambridge this year. So they have important function. But that they are different from pure leadership, because it's the leaders tend to think long term. You will listen, they have a vision of what will happen, and they strategize as to how to navigate the course to get there. 5 years minimum, 10 years. I teach personal financial management, and one of the things I find it difficult is to get people to think 30 years. I mean, it's 25 years, and you say 30 years. I said, but when you think 30 years, you can become a millionaire normally by contributing only 100 Ghana cedis to 200 Ghana cedis to a good mutual fund, and by the time you are 55, you are a millionaire. I can tell you, go out there and ask those who are 55, and if you get 0.5% as millionaires, then you are lucky. So this is, I'm then asking people to start leading themselves and looking in the long run. Then they innovate, and then try to, when they have an idea, it's not because it exists, they want to try it. That is leaders. I remember taking over GIMPA, and before 2000, you have 100 people going to University of Ghana as mature students, or 200 when you go to tech. If you have done a diploma in tech for 3 years and you wanted to go and do a top-up degree, you go and start from year 1. I mean, it means that all those years they taught you nothing. I said, no, I introduced the top-up degrees. We did it in 15 months. And then people were questioning, how dare you say that somebody with a 2-year diploma become a graduate in 2 years? I said, no, in 15 months. At least it should be 2 years. But I told them, but the 2 years, they have spent about 7 months in holidays. And somebody who is working on one with a diploma in accounting and working doesn't want to spend 7 months holidays. So the face-to-face time is the same. I remember the then minister in charge of higher education, and then the minister himself, Bayuredu, calling me to say, hold on until we have set policy in place. He says, I have to wait for a policy to be in place. I'm going ahead. When the policy comes, I will adjust to it. Leaders like Ashasi University, like Ibrahim Mahama, like Zumlion, who have you? If you get near to them, it seems they are just innovation machines. Because they innovate, they originate, and they develop systems which sometimes have not been before, or even if it exists, they are doing something better, faster, or cheaper, and therefore they make breakthrough. But the most important aspect of leadership, and I will be coming to that, is they focused on people, not so much systems. They leave it to department heads and other things, but it's the people. Someone has said that only human beings create value. And that is where leadership comes in. You may have money, you may have technology, but at the end of the day, it is people, people, and people. As a result, for leaders, inspiring trust is so much the currency. And above all else, they have long-term perspective. We'll be talking about the functions of leaders soon, But that is what it's about, long-term perspective. I've been teasing my friends, I'm 77 years old, and I've already planned my life for the next 42 and a half years. Says, what? Are you going to live for 42 and a half years? I said, well, my joke is that God gave us an upper limit of 120 years. But I like, one of my heroes is Martin Luther, the great reformer. He says that he lives his life daily as if Jesus Christ is coming back. But he will plant an apple tree. What it meant, this was the olden days whereby an apple tree may take almost 20 years before it bears fruit. That is what a leader is. It's not that he's negligent of the current situation, because you need to build on current situation, but the leader has a long-term perspective. He's not a short ranger. Therefore, whilst managers will focus on the bottom line, want to maintain the status quo, and is a classical soldier doing right things commanded, truly, a true leader asks what and why not. I won't disclose because a certain thing I'm embarking upon, and I know that the system says wait. I'm going to ask, why wait? Why not? Because they are saying that they want to develop policies. I says, what do you mean by policies? And then the next day there's a new government and there's a new policy? No. And oftentimes, practice precedes policy. Practice precedes policy when it comes to leadership. In other words, you learn before you anchor it in rules and practices. Therefore, the leader, according to Warren Bennis, says that not only does he originate and challenges the status quo, but he has his eyes on the long-term horizon. And above all else, he is his own person. That is why I think that for every one successful leader, about 3 have been killed, not physically, destroyed. Why? Because they tend to be their own persons. Whilst all our culture is to help you to conform to the status quo. So leadership is actually a high-risk business. But it is better to do the right thing than to do things right, according to Warren. What then is leadership, organizational leadership? Well, there are as many definitions of leadership as there are writers, but the essence of it is the same. One of my best love, and those who are my doctoral and master's students in leadership will say, Prof, haven't you graduated? You are still saying the same thing? Yes, because when you say you find a good thing, you keep to it. That is quotation by John P. Cotter, whose book is titled, What Leaders Really Do. It's a Harvard Business Review book. And let me quote it. He says, leadership, and here he has organizational leadership in view. Leadership is the development of vision and strategies, the alignment of relevant people behind those strategies, and empowerment of individuals to make the vision happen despite obstacles. I love it, I teach it, and I practice it. Leadership is the development of vision and strategies, the alignment of relevant people behind those strategies, and empowerment of individuals to make the vision happen despite obstacles. In this definition are also the actual functions of true organizational leadership. First and foremost, they look into the long-term future, and then try to capture a clear picture of what the organizations must be in 10, 20, 25 years. That is what vision is all about. And then leaders don't just end there. Often vision comes from the leadership. Others may contribute to the nurturing, but a vision is often the product of leadership. But then, how do you get there? That is what the means to do so are the strategies. And then there you are breaking down financial, people, technology, but you must have a clear picture. For example, when I was chairman of Ghana National Development Planning Commission, following my predecessor, Dr. Nimoy Thompson, we were thinking about Ghana at 100, not Ghana during the time of Akufo-Addo or Mahama. What are they going to do to transform Ghana in 8 years or 4 years? But we can, and we should, in the next less than 40 years, be able to move from a poor middle-income country to an industrialized country in which every Ghanaian is proud to be part of. And what you do, not only the vision and the strategies, but also the ability to pass on the vision and the strategies so that other people are excited to come and join you, because no matter how strong you are, you can do a little. He says when you want to go further, you take people along. When you go fast, you don't need to. And leadership is what the Americans call transvisioning. In other words, the ability to get others to buy into it. And then, as Kota would say, putting in the strategies and empowering them. Then comes a very interesting part of leadership. Many people have dreams, but they don't. But it's how to navigate it so that you can get there. And that is what all change management is about. And that was to change from the status quo. And if you are a true leader and you want your horizon to enlarge, you want to be producing other leaders along. Multiplication. Let me conclude this session by saying that managers do a lot of good job, and often a good leader will require several managers to support him, and then hopefully empower them to also become leaders. However, paradigm shifts is the job of true leadership in organizations. I thank you, and we will meet again as we continue with this important topic of organizational leadership. I will be focusing on the leadership as a process. Meet me every Saturday morning, 8:30 on ZFM 101.9. And if you miss it, look for Emeritus Professor Stephen Adei on YouTube. Shalom, and may God be with you.